No, that isn't how we want to start the video. Thank you, Ollie. What is it with you and washing when the video's on? Have you not learnt that you have to get ready before we start filming? You can't do it in the middle or at the start. What is it they say? Never work with children and animals. That's something we prove, I think, most weeks. So hi there, thanks ever so much for joining me. Today it's Anna Rosie Duck Designs. As you can see, the director is in his place. I have to say, judging by his demeanour this morning, I didn't think he was actually going to show any interest whatsoever, but I have to say he's been sitting up here waiting for us to start. And of course now we're started, he's getting a little bit more interested. Not in what's going on though. So last time I said it was going to be between the Bird Ballad Suite, the Mosaic Mood Suite, or the Daisy Lane stamp set and coordinating punch. Now, probably because Jim and I were able to spend some time at the Hampton Court Flower Show recently, being surrounded by all those amazing flowers, the Daisy Lane suite in the end, not Daisy Lane suite, the Daisy Lane stamp set and coordinating punch won out above the others. So that's what we're going to be using today for crafting. So I'm somewhat distracted by what's going on above me now. So I've made this card using So Saffron as my base card, and then Whisper White, So Saffron again, and then the So Saffron stamped. You can see where the tone of this is going, can't you? Stamped onto Whisper White cardstock and then punched out using the punch. I have to say, looking at this very, very closely, the middle flower has got, it looks like a stamped off version of Grapefruit Grove on it. Now this has happened totally by accident, but I actually think that kind of works. So I'm not going to stress over it, I'm just going to let it go as it is. It just actually gives you an idea that it's not a bad idea to try some different colours and sort of put them together. So happy accident, I think, that one. So we're going to make a version of that card today, and I'm going to use the current, or one of the current, sorry, I was getting hand signals there. You were just scratching your face. I thought, seriously, I can't have gone on that long. I only just started. I'm going to use one of the new In Colors, Rocco Rose, and I'm going to use that as my base card. So as usual, I've got 8x6 scored at 4 on the long side and then folded in 2. You're moving your hand again. I'm getting very twitchy here. I always assume when you move that and I'm doing a video, I'm doing something wrong or whatever. So I've got my Daisy Lane cling stamp here, and it is a cling stamp, and I'm going to take the precaution of sticking a little bit of washi tape. I've got to say it's 50-50. There's been some that I've had absolutely no trouble getting off my blocks, and others that I have. There's no easy way of saying that one works and that one doesn't, because it could be different on your set of stamps than it is on mine. I think also the problem, because I've lost a couple of them and they got left on the block, I've managed to peel them off, but I think it makes them more susceptible to coming loose. So possibly, perhaps a good tip is to just use that bit of washi tape whether you're having trouble or not. So I'm going to use Rocco Rose ink. I've already found something I've forgotten to bring in. Never mind, we'll deal with that in a minute. So I've got 2 pieces of Whisper White at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, and I'm just going to do half of the daisy on the corner of the inside page of the card. And while I've got my stamp, I may as well do the envelope as well. Now this, I have to say, lends itself to stamping off, and it gives you a slightly lighter colour. So when you stamp off, you can see it on there because there's a grey background, but there is a nice difference. But we'll see that a bit more with some of the other stamps that we're going to do. So let me just put that together before I run and get the piece of paper that I've forgotten. Try to smile the right way. That's a good move. I will just add a little touch of Wink of Stella on here. 2 reasons for that. One, I'm going to be adding some Wink of Stella into the sentiment, but I've just actually noticed that the daisy hasn't quite come out. So if I just pick a little piece up with my nib, I can just colour that in. At the same time adding Wink of Stella to the rest of them. Because we all need a bit of bling in our lives. Don't we, Ollie? You'd agree with that? Though in your case I think it's crunchy bits, but it's a bit more exciting, isn't it, than glimmer. Right, so I'm going to do that. If you can either pause it or if you don't just want to let him talk to the public. Please don't have a wash. Oh, that's right, you can wash your paws. Well done. Couldn't you do something a little bit more entertaining? Couldn't you? That's it, catch your tail. Don't fall off though. I don't need it that entertaining. Right, so while I've got that stamp on my block, you will see that I've already cut out my daisies that I'm going to use, as I didn't want it to be another one of those very long videos, but I'll just show you how I've done that. So taking my stamp, I'm stamping it once and then I'm stamping it off. I've got to say there's a bit too much ink on that, so we'll just do that again. It's better. So I think you can probably see a lot better on that piece of card the difference between the full stamping with the ink and the stamped off version. What I'm going to do, hopefully, is just cut those 2 out, or punch those 2 out with the medium daisy punch. So if it's not something you're familiar with, if you take your punch to your image, you can fiddle around with it until you're happy that you've got the right or complete image that you're going to punch out. You can just play around until you're happy, and if you just pull or bring the punch together very lightly, but just so it's grabbing the card, it just enables you to just have a look and make sure you're happy. Just release it slightly, move it round. That will do. It's a bit of welly, I have to say, to punch it with your hands, but it's a good workout. So what I would do with those is, of course, add some Wink of Stella. I don't need anything in the middle because that is going to get covered up. It's absolutely baking today, I have to say. Job these flowers of paper because they'll probably be wilting in this heat. So having done that, I'm now going to take my bone folder and just fold up the leaves gently. And by using the full version and then the stamped off version, you've actually given yourself a variation in colour. I'll just hold that together using a glue dot. So take the top daisy to the glue dot and then put them off centre so that all the gaps are filled with petals, and then just push it down and you've got your daisy ready to use. So that's exactly what I've done with these three that are ready to put on the card. Now on the front of the card I've got a piece of 3.5 by 5.5 Rocco Rose card, and what I've done with that is I've run it through my Big Shot using my basket weave embossing folder, which I'm very pleased to say is now back in stock and available to order. It's not been available for a while. It's carried through, so I'm sure a number of you will have this already, but if you haven't, you can now order it. And literally just when you put it through, just make sure you've got it straight so that your lines are straight on your card, and you just run that then with your base plate and the plastic acrylic plates that go with the Big Shot. So what I'm saying is it won't work with the magnetic plate that I usually use. It needs your base plate because the magnetic plate is a bit too thick. I know this because I've tried. So I've run that through, it gives me that really nice basket weave effect. But before I add that to the card, I've got this other piece of Whisper White at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. Brain doesn't really function that well generally, but it functions even less in the heat, I have to say. So I'm going to put that on the front of the card. There's a tiny mark on there, but I'm going to live with it. great scheme of things, I don't think that's going to notice. And then I'm going to add my card that I've embossed. Obviously there are two ways. There's this version where you've got the raised image, you've also got the negative image on that. Now there may be a reason why you'd quite like that pattern. I want it to look like the basket weave, so I'm going with the pattern that's intended, but actually some of the negative images work really well, so I'm just centralising that as best I can freehand. Now I've got a piece of Whisper White cardstock, which is 1 3/4 by 5.5, and that is to go across the middle. Now I've embossed that, gone into embossing folders, because I've got to be honest, it's not something that I use very often, so I thought, why not? Now this, unfortunately, at the moment is not available to order. It is in the catalogue, but it isn't. There are some issues with actually getting it in, so if you haven't got this at the moment, I'm afraid you can't order it just at the moment. But for those of you that have had it, it has been around a while. So this is the Layering Leaves embossing folder. So again, I've just cut that out. I've looked at the, if you're going to see this, but you can see all the different images of the leaves. So I've basically picked out the bit that I wanted to have on my card, and then you place it in there, straighten it up, and again you then run it through the Big Shot. So you've made your sandwich, then you run it through the machine. So I finished up with that. Put that across the middle. Again, I'm looking at the way the leaves are, but I kind of like it that way, so I'm going to stick with that. So again, I'm going for the central area-ish of my card. And then the daisies will sit on the top. I haven't quite finished with the centre of the card because I need a sentiment in there. And I'm actually using one from the Woven Heirlooms, which is right at the start of the catalogue, and it's in a suite that features a lot of, or all of the new In Colours. But there are some nice background stamps in here, but there's also some nice sentiments. I have to say I got this as a gift at On Stage, and if I'm totally honest, is it something I would have bought myself? Probably not. It wouldn't have been the first thing that jumped out of the catalogue at me. But when you sort of stop and look at it, there are some really good things on here. I mean, this thank you. Sadly, we do need sympathy cards at times, so there's a nice sentiment here. But there's also a happy one here, wishing you a day of love and joy. And I'm using this one, thinking of you. Unfortunately, I've got a couple of friends that are going through quite difficult times at the moment, so I'm sort of making these cards to send to them, as well as using the opportunity to share how I'm making them via my YouTube channel. So let me just stick that straight, so that would be a good plan. Again, this is a cling stamp, and I haven't taken my own advice. I've gone straight on the block. I have used this one before, so I'm hoping it's going to be okay. So I'm just aiming for somewhere in the middle of the card. Now I'm going to clean that and get it off my block in the hope that it won't stick on there. I think this was one of the good ones. I have to say, despite the certain issues we're having of them getting stuck on the block, I am totally loving the cling stamps and the fact that they just will attach to your blocks. When I ever get any of the older ones out that have carried through, and I'm getting the lip salve out, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it does work, but it's so much easier when they can just go straight on your block. Now I'm just trying to pick out very gently just tiny bits of the lettering. So you're hardly going to see this, but I just want that tiny bit of shimmer so it ties in with the shimmer that's on the leaves here, which I'm guessing with the sun is not picking up. Because it's a heavy ink, heavy colour, it tends to blend easier than the lighter ones, so I'm trying to be careful. Going to an extreme of nothing much coming out at all. It's a happy medium that you want, isn't it? You don't want it splodging everywhere, but you do actually want to see it. Don't you find that, Ollie? You do need to see things if they're meant to be there. That's it. That's all. I can see some on there. I'm actually going to go just over here as well because I'm lacking a bit of glitter on here or glimmer on here. So I'm sure you can't see this, but there are just elements of the darker parts of the lines here, or the thicker parts of the lines, that have just got a little tiny bit of Wink of Stella on, so that as you open the card and it catches the light, it will just have that little bit of glow with it. So I've used Wink of Stella on all of my petals here. The card is ready to put together. Slightly wonky there with the it's lucky, wasn't it? Don't normally get away with that. That's better. So I need to stick these on, and I'm going to stick them on with some mini Stampin Dimensionals. I'll go with the middle one first, and then you can work your way back outwards to see where best to place it. So we'll go in the middle with that one. Ish. So I should bring a spirit level or something with me. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment. I'm not totally convinced that was where I wanted it. There we go. My own hand is getting in the way, I think, of my positioning. Okay, I think that's better. We'll go with that. Put one down here. little tiny bits of backing to get off. I spent the weekend gardening, so the nails are not the length they should be. Right, so there's the daisies. Now with this one, I've used the gold faceted gems, but I kind of think that the clear ones will probably work better with the pink, so you can always try one. Yeah, I think that looks better. Yeah. Creative director says yes. Oh, that's you as well. You're multitasking. Did you not know? I thought it was your new role, actually. 25 minutes. Wow, doesn't time fly? What did you say? 25? Yeah. I was going to say something like, you didn't know I could talk that long, but then you do. And the rest. It's just everybody else that's probably not quite used to it. So we have a completed card with a nice sentiment in there, and we could always, I won't do it on camera, but I might just add a bit of Wink of Stella on the envelope to just marry the whole thing together. So that is my 2 cards. Different colour schemes, but both I think very effective. I have to say I love this new colour. It's a nice sort of dusky pink. So a couple of things. We've probably run out of time, and I'll stick things together. But just a couple of things about the Daisy Lane suite. So if you notice, you've got the big daisy here, and that will coordinate with the daisy punch that we had in the catalogue last year. So that's one thing. So that's Melon Mambo. So the full ink stamped off. So that punch went with the Daisy Delight punch from last year, which is that daisy. So now we've got a nice combination of 2 sorts of big daisies, and also with the little medium daisy. So you can really get stuck in and make lots of different florally cards, which are perfect really for the summer. Now I did mention that the Layering Leaves embossing folder isn't currently, you can't currently order that. So what could you do? I came up with a couple of ideas. Instead of using the Whisper White through the embossing folder, you could, I've gone 1.5 inches with this one, basically as I was just using it to show you what could be done. But you could just add those leaves to that piece of Whisper White card to put across the middle, and then your daisies could just sit on there. Or here's some, or maybe it's not. I don't know. It's on this desk. Oh, it is. So again, I've done, that is 1.5 inches, and what I've done with that, 1.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and I've used the detailed trio punch. So I've used this one to round off the edges, and then I've used this one to just cut out these little florally bits in the corner. Now you could put that across the centre of the card and then add the daisies to that. So both of those ideas I think work quite well. In this instance I've used the leaf stamp on here, and I've used it the full ink version and then elements of it I've used as stamped off, so the second stamp. So is that all right? So you've got the two colours, which will then marry in with the two colours on your daisies. So that's one little idea. 30 minutes, right? Finally. We all know it's not really finally, but if you don't have a big shop, all is not lost. We've got Grapefruit Grove here, and so that's ready to put together. So the same measurements for the pink card, but what I've done with this is, I'm getting all flustered now because I'm on a time frame. Why don't we pause the video, then I can stick this together, because I'd like to sort of share how we can do this before we run out of time. So I put the card together as we did the pink one, and the measurements are all exactly the same, except I'm using Grapefruit Grove as opposed to the Rocco Rose. Now, as I started to say, if you haven't got a big shop, how do you come up with something similar to, how do you use the idea and come up with a similar card that's going to be just as lovely as that one? Although I do say so myself. So what I've done is taken the leaf stamp out of the Daisy Lane stamp set. I'm just inking it up, and I'm just randomly going to be stamping that across my piece of card, which is 3.5 by 5.5. So I have one coming down here. So there is no wrong or right way of stamping this at all. It's just random. Just have the leaf coming in. Just a few leaves or a piece of the stalk. Stalk, is it? It's a stem. It's the technical term for it. I think, having been at the flower show, I'd know that, wouldn't you? There you go. So, two slightly different versions of the same thing. And then what I'm going to do with that is add that to the front of my card. This one I'm just leaving it blank, so I've got it handy if I want a thank you card or for whatever occasion I might want a card for. I can always add the sentiment later. It's always a good plan to have some cards like that, because you never know when you're going to need one. So this is a little piece of white with the white card that I showed you a little bit earlier. And what I'm going to do with that is, I think I'm going to put that on with some dimensionals. So I'm going to make this slightly different. It's nice to vary things. You don't want to feel like you're suddenly joined a production line. And I've made the daisies in exactly the same way, apart from the fact I've stamped them in Grapefruit Grove. Nice little clearing up to do, Ollie, after this is over. Are you going to help me? 35 minutes. Okay. We'll know what happens if I go on for too long. I have to stick two videos together. But I think I'm kind of getting the hang of that now. So it's not the end of the world. So I'm just putting that over there. And as you can see, because I've used those cutouts from that detailed trio punch, we've got the grapefruit grove coming through the little holes in the white card. Now in this instance I'm going to just put 2 daisies on the front, because 3, I did have 3, but you can imagine 3 is looking kind of crowded, I think. I don't know. What do you think? You want 2? Okay. Which is as well, because I've lost the other one. Oh, there it is, yeah. No, I think it probably is a bit crowded. I'll give you that one. So I'm going to stick those on with some mini Stampin Dimensionals. At least by having 2 on, we'll be able to see this detail a bit better. Yeah, that's not too bad. Now, gold or clear? What is your opinion? Clear you want? Okay. She goes to stick the gold ones on. I'm not sure about that, if I'm honest. Just lay that on there. I kind of think the gold works. So if this was a live Facebook, we could have a poll, couldn't we? I don't mind. We'll go with the clear. I think actually they both work. How about that for a compromise? So, yeah. Oh, there we go. Very similar card, but without the use of a big shot. So that completes the crafting for today. Yes, I've got to hurry up and wind up. Yes, I know. Never going to happen, is it? So just a couple of things. The bonus days are still on. Spend £45 excluding postage and packing up until the end of July, and you will then receive via email a coupon of £4.50 to redeem during August, and that works in increments of £45. So if you spent £90, you'll get 2 coupons and so on. And also the additional products that are available in the starter kit if you sign up to become a demonstrator between now and the end of August. Just one thing to bear in mind. So as suspected, the tablet cut out as it usually does around this time. So just to clarify what I was saying, the starter kit with the additional products promotion is available up until the end of August. Just bear in mind, if you're thinking about that, and this is just my personal opinion, but from the 1st of August we as demonstrators get to pre-order things from the new autumn winter catalogue, which goes live on the 4th of September. Now you can include those in your starter kit if you join from the 1st of August. So if it's something you're thinking about, it might be worth waiting just those extra couple of weeks, so you're getting a full spectrum of products that you can order from. I think that's about it. As usual, all the links to my social media, my blog, are going to be on the front, and of course a link to my shop. And if you'd like to subscribe to my blog, if you'd like to do that, please do so. That just means that you'll get advised when I upload a blog post. And if you have enjoyed this video, please give me the thumbs up, and also if you'd like to subscribe, that would be great. All that happens is you get told when I've uploaded another video. Just in finishing this, as I mentioned, I've made those couple of cards for some friends going through some hard times. And I just wanted to say, never underestimate the value of a card of any sort, if I'm honest. But we are on a sort of crafting video, so primarily we're talking about handcrafted cards. But just taking that time out to send a card to somebody can mean the world to them. Yes, we've got messages, texts, and all sorts of things that we can communicate with, but it's something that's sort of tangible in their hands to really show that you are thinking of them. Quite often there's nothing you can do about a situation, but just having that come through the post just tells them that they're being thought about. I would, if I've got time, share an experience of an elderly friend of ours, and we sent her a card, and to be fair, I'd forgotten all about it, and it was only many months after that, when she'd recovered, she said to me, "Oh, that card, it meant so much to me," and at which point she's then produced it out of her bag. I then said, "Oh yeah, I remember that card, I made it," and she went, "I can't believe that you actually made that," and at this point she's now hugging the card. And it just really, at that point, you know, we make cards all the time, we send them, perhaps sometimes we don't always think of the effect they have on people. So just a little shout out, really. It doesn't have to be the best card in the world. It's just something that you're giving of yourself to somebody else. So I'll just leave you with that thought. Thanks ever so much for joining me and listening to me waffle on as normal. So the Bird Ballad Suite almost won out, but it didn't quite, so will be back to share that with you in my next video. But until then, enjoy the nice weather. I think it's hanging around for a few days yet, and I will see you very soon. So from my cameraman stroke creative director, oh, he's gone, my other director's gone. Oh, he's behind the hairy curtain, right, okay. So bye from Ollie and bye from myself, and we will see you again very soon. Take care.